The moment Nora Vale recognized the fifth assassin walking through the restaurant door, she knew Ethan Cross had exactly 7 minutes to live. She'd spent 3 years hiding in plain sight, serving overpriced steaks to people who never bothered learning her name. Tonight, that invisibility was about to shatter. Because the man sitting at table 12, surrounded by bodyguards who couldn't spot a threat if it wore a neon sign, didn't know he was already dead. And she was the only person in this glittering Manhattan prison who could save him. Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this tale has traveled. The crystal chandelier above table 12 cast fractured light across Ethan Cross's untouched $30 appetizer. Nora watched from the server station, polishing wine glasses that didn't need polishing, making herself smaller, invisible, a skill she'd perfected over 30 years of deliberate erasure. Table 12 needs water, Marcus, the floor manager, snapped without looking at her. He never did. None of them did. On it, Nora murmured, reaching for the pitcher. Her hands were steady. They were always steady now, even when her pulse hammered against her ribs like it was trying to escape. 3 years of waiting tables at Le Bernardin's upscale cousin had taught her that much. How to move through a room full of Manhattan's elite like she was part of the furniture. How to exist without existing. She approached table 12 with her eyes down, the way she'd been trained. Not by the restaurant, by survival. Ethan Cross didn't acknowledge her. He was typing on his phone with the focused intensity of someone who believed the world would stop rotating if he paused for breath. His security chief, a brick wall of a man named Garrett, stood 3 feet behind his left shoulder, scanning the restaurant with the bored efficiency of someone who'd never encountered a real threat. 2 more guards flanked the entrance, another position near the kitchen. Overkill for a Tuesday dinner. Or so they thought. Nora filled Ethan's water glass. Her reflection trembled in the surface. Pale skin, dark hair pulled back so tight it gave her headaches. Brown eyes that had learned not to make contact. She started to retreat. "Miss." She froze. Ethan's voice was colder than the ice water she'd just poured. "Yes, sir?" She kept her gaze on his collar. Expensive shirt, no tie, the kind of calculated casual that costs more than her monthly rent. "This water's too cold. Brings out the chlorine taste. Room temperature, no ice." "Of course. I apologize." She reached for the glass. Their fingers didn't touch, she made sure of that, but close enough that she caught the scent of his cologne. Something woody and probably hand-blended by a perfumer in Paris who didn't take appointments with anyone worth less than 8 figures. Nora returned to the server station, dumped the ice, refilled from the tap they kept at room temperature for exactly these kinds of requests. Her hands were still steady, but her mind was calculating distances, exit points, blast radius if things went the way she suspected. The first one had walked in 6 minutes ago. Male, late 30s, expensive suit that fit too well across the shoulders, tailored to hide muscle, not flaunt it. He'd requested a table with a view of the entire dining room, hadn't looked at the menu once. His eyes kept drifting to table 12 with the practiced casualness of someone who'd been taught surveillance by people who knew what they were doing. The second arrived 3 minutes later. Female, early 40s, designer dress, diamond earrings, the kind of polished elegance that made her blend seamlessly with Le Corbusier's usual clientele. She sat at the bar, ordered a Manhattan straight up, and positioned herself with a clear sightline to both the entrance and Ethan Cross's table. Her purse, Hermès, probably authentic, sat on the bar within easy reach, too heavy for just a wallet and lipstick. The third came alone 90 seconds after that. Male, younger, mid-20s maybe, playing the part of a nervous first dater, checking his phone every 30 seconds like he was waiting for someone who'd stood him up. But his posture was wrong, too balanced, too aware. And his shoes, Italian leather, broken in just enough to run in, didn't match the awkward college kid persona he was selling. The fourth was the boldest, the older gentleman, silver hair, kind face, the sort who looked like he should be teaching philosophy at Columbia. He'd struck up a conversation with the couple at the table directly beside Ethan's, something about the wine list. Friendly, charming, utterly unthreatening, which was precisely what made Nora's stomach twist. And now the fifth had just walked through the door. Female, mid-30s, blonde hair and a sleek ponytail, business suit that screamed corporate attorney celebrating a big win. She was smiling at the hostess, saying something that made the girl laugh, completely at ease in a room full of strangers. 5 vectors. Perfect spacing. No obvious connection between them. To anyone else, they were just another Tuesday night crowd at an expensive Manhattan restaurant. But Nora had seen this formation before, back when she was someone else, someone who knew how to read rooms not for wine orders but for kill zones. She delivered the room temperature water to Ethan's table. He didn't look up from his phone. "Will there be anything else, sir?" "We'll order in 10 minutes. Still no eye contact. "Tell the kitchen I want the salmon, but not if it's farmed. Only wild caught. I can taste the difference." "Of course." She retreated. Her legs wanted to shake. She wouldn't let them. Garrett, the security chief, was checking his own phone now. The 2 guards at the entrance were chatting about a basketball game. The one near the kitchen had left his post to flirt with one of the sous chefs. Amateurs. Rich boy amateurs who'd probably trained at some executive protection firm that taught them how to look intimidating for corporate events and shareholder meetings. They had no idea what professional violence looked like when it wasn't wearing a ski mask and waving a gun. Nora caught Marcus's attention. "I need to speak with Mr. Garrett." Marcus's eyebrows rose. "The security guy? Why?" "I think—" She stopped, recalibrated. Timid Nora wouldn't make accusations. Timid Nora would express concern, seek reassurance, defer to authority. "I'm probably being paranoid, but there are some guests who seem, I don't know, something feels off." "Off how?" "The way they're positioned, the timing of their arrivals. I just think maybe—" Marcus cut her off with a laugh. "Nora, honey, you're a sweetheart, but you're seeing things. It's a busy night. People come in. People sit down. That's how restaurants work." "I know, but if you're worried, take it up with the security team. But honestly, I think you've been watching too many action movies." He patted her shoulder like she was a nervous child. "Deep breath. You're fine. Everything's fine." She wasn't fine. Everything wasn't fine. But she nodded anyway, because that's what invisible people did. They agreed. They deferred. They disappeared. Except she couldn't disappear. Not tonight. Not with 5 professionals moving into position around a man who had no idea his expensive security team was about to be dismantled like amateur hour at a tactical training course. She approached Garrett directly. He was scrolling through what looked like a security feed on his phone, probably from cameras at Ethan's estate, making sure the real asset, the daughter, was safe. Smart priority. Wrong execution. "Excuse me, sir." He glanced at her, then away. She wasn't a threat. Therefore, she wasn't worth his full attention. "What?" "I wanted to alert you to something." She kept her voice quiet, deferential, unthreatening. "There are 5 individuals in the restaurant who arrived separately but seem coordinated. They've positioned themselves with overlapping fields of fire covering your principal. I believe you're looking at an imminent hostile action." That got his attention. He actually looked at her now, really looked, taking in the cheap uniform, the forgettable face, the way she held herself like she was apologizing for taking up oxygen. "Fields of fire," he repeated slowly. "You want to run that by me again? The man at table 7, the woman at the bar, the younger male at table 4, the older gentleman at table 11, and the blonde who just sat down at table 9. They're not here for dinner. They're here for him." She nodded toward Ethan. "You have maybe 5 minutes before they move." Garrett's expression shifted from annoyed to amused. "Let me guess. You watch a lot of spy movies?" "No, sir." "Then what exactly makes you qualified to assess potential threats?" The real answer would have gotten her arrested or disappeared, so she gave him the acceptable one. "I'm probably wrong. I've worked here a long time. I know what normal looks like. This isn't normal. Lady, respectfully, you serve drinks. We handle security." He turned back to his phone. "If you're nervous, maybe take a break. Get some air." She stood there for 3 seconds, 4, 5, watching him dismiss her, watching his team maintain their useless positions, watching Ethan Cross continue typing on his phone, completely oblivious to the trap closing around him. She could walk away, clock out early, let whatever was about to happen happen. It wasn't her problem. She'd stopped being in the business of other people's problems 3 years ago when she'd traded her real name for a social security number that belonged to a woman who'd died in Tucson, and nobody had bothered to update the records. But then Ethan said something into his phone. "Tell Sophie I'll be home in an hour. Yes, before bedtime. I promised her, didn't I?" And Nora's carefully constructed walls of professional detachment cracked just enough to let something dangerous through. A daughter. He had a daughter who was waiting for him to come home. The blonde at table 9 checked her watch. The older man at table 11 folded his napkin. The woman at the bar finished her Manhattan and set the glass down with the kind of finality that preceded action. 90 seconds. Maybe less. Nora did the math. 4 security guards. 5 attackers. Element of surprise, professional execution. The guards would go down in the first 10 seconds. Ethan would be extracted or eliminated within 30. The other diners would be collateral damage or witnesses to be managed. Clean. Efficient. The kind of operation that left crime scene investigators scratching their heads and conspiracy theorists feeling vindicated. She'd seen it before. Hell, she'd been part of teams that executed similar extractions, back when she was someone who knew how to kill people and get paid for it. But that was before. Before the betrayal. Before the escape. Before she'd buried herself so deep in ordinary life that she'd almost convinced herself the past was something that happened to someone else. The man at table 7 stood up. Nora's body made the decision before her brain caught up. Muscle memory from a life she'd spent 3 years trying to forget. She moved. Not to the exit. Not to safety. Toward the bar, where the woman in the designer dress was reaching into her too heavy purse. "Excuse me, ma'am?" Nora's voice stayed soft, deferential. Her hands, though, were already calculating the exact angle and pressure point needed to dislocate a shoulder. "Can I get you another drink?" The woman's hand paused, her eyes, cold, professional, annoyed, fixed on Nora. "I'm fine." "Are you sure? The bartender just opened a really nice Bordeaux. On the house for valued guests." It was nonsense. They didn't comp wine at Le Corbusier, but it bought her 3 seconds of proximity, 3 seconds to position herself between this woman and her sightline to Ethan Cross. The woman's smile didn't reach her eyes. "I said I'm fine." "Of course. I apologize." Nora stepped back, but not away, just enough to seem compliant while staying in the disruption zone. At table 7, the first man was moving, casual, unhurried, angling toward the restroom hallway, which would take him behind Garrett's position. Table 11, the older gentleman, excused himself from his conversation with the couple, also heading toward the restrooms. Flanking maneuver. They'd take out the security chief first, eliminate the command structure, leave the other guards confused and reactive. Nora's pulse was steady. Her breathing was controlled, and some part of her brain that she'd tried to smother with 3 years of wine orders and polite deference was purring with the familiar rhythm of tactical assessment. She caught the eye of the young man at table 4. He saw her seeing him. For just a fraction of a second, his expression flickered. Recognition, calculation, threat assessment. He knew. Somehow, he knew she wasn't what she appeared to be. That changed the math. The woman at the bar was pulling her hand out of her purse. Not a gun. Too public. Too messy. Probably a syringe. Something fast-acting. Inject Ethan during the chaos. Walk him out the service entrance while he was still conscious enough to cooperate. Let him collapse in the back of a van parked in the alley. Professional. Clean. No bullet holes to explain. Nora had maybe 20 seconds. She turned toward table 12, where Ethan was finally putting his phone down, reaching for his water glass, the room temperature one she'd brought him, completely unaware that he was about to become the center of a very violent piece of theater. Garrett was still on his phone. The 2 guards at the entrance were still discussing basketball. The one near the kitchen had moved even further from his post. 10 seconds. The man from table 7 was 3 feet behind Garrett now. The older gentleman was moving to flank from the right. The blonde at table 9 had her hand in her purse, duplicate syringe probably. Redundancy. These people didn't leave things to chance. 5 seconds. Nora picked up a wine bottle from the nearest server station. Heavy. Bordeaux. Expensive enough that Marcus would scream at her later for what she was about to do with it. 3 seconds. The young man at table 4 stood up, abandoning his pretense of waiting for a date. 2 seconds. Nora's entire body remembered what it had spent 3 years trying to forget. The weight of violence, the geometry of controlled chaos, the precise calibration of force required to end a threat without becoming one yourself. 1 second. The man behind Garrett reached into his jacket. Nora moved, not like a waitress, like what she used to be. She covered the distance to table 12 in 3 strides, the wine bottle already in motion. She wasn't aiming for the man's head, too much bone, too unpredictable. She went for the elbow of his reaching arm, the joint that would shatter his ability to draw whatever weapon he was pulling. The bottle connected with a sound like a branch breaking. The man's arm went limp, his hand dropped away from his jacket, and the entire restaurant seemed to freeze as the reality of violence intruded on their expensive Tuesday evening. Except nothing froze. Violence never paused for shock. The older gentleman was already moving, abandoning subtlety, pulling a compact pistol from his jacket. The woman at the bar was out of her seat, syringe in hand. The blonde at table 9 was shouting something, probably the signal to abort the quiet extraction and shift to Plan B, which almost certainly involved more guns and less discretion. And the young man at table 4 was coming straight at Nora with the kind of speed that confirmed every suspicion she'd had about his training. Garrett finally pulled his weapon, but he was slow, confused, still trying to understand how his nice, quiet protection detail had turned into an active shooting situation. One of the guards at the entrance was reaching for his gun. The other was frozen, deer in headlights, probably having his first real encounter with actual violence. Ethan Cross was out of his chair, phone forgotten, his face showing the exact expression of every civilian who'd ever realized that money couldn't stop bullets. And Nora, invisible, forgettable, Nora Vale, who'd spent 3 years perfecting the art of being nobody, was standing in the middle of a very expensive restaurant, holding a broken wine bottle, facing 5 professional killers who'd just had their operation blown to pieces by a waitress. The young man reached her first. He was fast, trained, probably ex-military, definitely contract work, absolutely confident in his ability to neutralize a threat. He was also telegraphing his moves like he'd learned them from an instructor who'd never had to fight anyone who actually fought back. Nora dropped under his reaching arm, used his momentum against him, and slammed what was left of the wine bottle into the nerve cluster below his ribs. Not enough to puncture anything vital, just enough to light up his entire nervous system with pain that would keep him on the floor for the next 30 seconds. He went down hard, loud, taking a table with him. Shrimp scampi and overpriced Chardonnay everywhere. The older gentleman had his pistol up now, aiming at Garrett, who was still trying to process what was happening. Nora grabbed a dinner plate from the nearest table, heavy porcelain, good weight, and threw it like a discus. It caught the older man in the wrist. Not enough to break anything, but enough to spoil his aim. His shot went wide, embedding in the ceiling. Someone screamed. Finally. The other diners were starting to understand that their evening had taken a very wrong turn. The woman from the bar was moving on Ethan, syringe extended, professional, and focused. She'd made the calculation. Forget the waitress, complete the primary objective, extract or eliminate the target. Nora intercepted her 3 feet from Ethan's table. The woman was good. She pivoted, tried to use the syringe as a weapon against Nora instead. But Nora had spent years training against people who were better than good. She caught the woman's wrist, twisted, applied pressure to the exact point where bone and tendon met, and listened to something small but important snap. The syringe fell. The woman's professional composure cracked. She tried to throw a punch with her offhand. Nora blocked it, drove her knee into the woman's solar plexus, and watched her fold like someone had cut her strings. 2 down, 3 to go. Except the restaurant had erupted into chaos. Diners were running for exits. Waitstaff were screaming. The guard at the entrance had finally drawn his weapon but had no idea where to point it. Garrett was trying to hustle Ethan toward the kitchen, which would have been smart except the blonde from table 9 was already moving to cut them off. And the older gentleman had recovered from the plate strike, had his pistol back up, and was aiming directly at Nora's center mass. She dove behind table 12 as he fired. The shot punched through the space where her chest had been a half-second earlier and shattered the window behind her. Cold air rushed in. Someone outside started screaming. Nora came up with Ethan's steak knife. Not ideal, but sharp enough. The older man was adjusting his aim, professional calm back in place. He'd killed before. Probably a lot. And he'd already decided Nora was the immediate threat that needed eliminating. She threw the knife. Not at him. His body armor would stop it. At his gun hand, the blade buried itself in the meat of his palm, and his pistol clattered to the floor. 3 down, 2 to go. The man with the shattered elbow had recovered enough to rejoin the fight. He'd drawn his own weapon, left-handed, awkward, but still dangerous at this range. He was aiming at Ethan, who Garrett had successfully moved halfway to the kitchen. Nora grabbed the ice bucket from table 12 and threw it. Not at the gunman, at the chandelier above him. The bucket hit. The chandelier, crystal, expensive, poorly maintained, broke free from its ceiling mount and came down like God's own hammer. 300 pounds of architectural pretension and electrical wiring. It caught the gunman across the shoulders and drove him to the floor in an explosion of shattered crystal and sparking wire. 4 down. 1 to go. The blonde had reached Garrett and Ethan. She was smiling, not bothering with subtlety anymore. She had a gun in her hand, small caliber, probably .22, quiet but effective, and she was saying something to Garrett, probably telling him to step aside, probably explaining that this didn't have to involve him dying too. Garrett, to his credit, didn't step aside. He put himself between the blonde and Ethan, weapon raised, hands steady. The blonde shot him, not center mass, through the thigh. Precise, professional, designed to disable, not kill. Garrett went down, blood spreading across expensive carpet, and the blonde stepped over him like he was a piece of furniture. She had her gun to Ethan's head before Nora could close the distance. "Don't," the blonde said, voice calm. She wasn't talking to Ethan. She was talking to Nora. "I will put a round through his brain before you take another step." Nora stopped, 15 feet away. Too far to reach her before she could pull the trigger. Close enough to see Ethan's face, pale, terrified, nothing like the confident billionaire who'd complained about chlorinated water 10 minutes ago. The restaurant had gone quiet except for the moaning of injured attackers and the distant sound of sirens. Someone had called the police. Help was coming. Not fast enough. "Who are you?" the blonde asked Nora. Not angry, curious. Professional interest. Nobody. Nobody doesn't fight like that. Nobody doesn't read a formation. Nobody doesn't take down 4 operators without breaking a sweat. The blonde's smile widened. "So let's try again. Who are you?" "Someone who's had a really long day." Nora's hands were empty. No weapons, no advantages, just 15 feet of expensive carpet and a professional killer with a gun to a billionaire's head. "Let him go." "Can't do that. Contract's pretty specific." "The contract's blown. Your team's down. Police are coming. You've got maybe 2 minutes to extract. You take him, you're not getting out of this building." "Maybe. Maybe not." The blonde pressed the gun harder against Ethan's temple. He flinched. "But I can guarantee I take him with me one way or another, unless you back off. Let me walk." Nora's mind ran the calculations. Distance, timing, probability of success. Not good. But then Ethan spoke. His voice was shaking, but clear. "Sophie," he said. "My daughter. She's 5. She's waiting for me to come home. I promised I'd read her a story." The blonde's expression didn't change. "Touching. Doesn't change my orders." "Please," Ethan continued. He was looking at Nora now, not the woman about to kill him. "If I don't make it, someone needs to tell her. Someone needs to make sure she's okay." And Nora saw it. The opening. The smallest fraction of distraction as the blonde's eyes flicked toward Ethan when he spoke. Her concentration split for just a microsecond between her hostage and her target. Nora moved. She grabbed a fallen wine glass from the nearest table and threw it. Not at the blonde. At the overhead light directly above her. Glass shattered. The light exploded. Sparks and darkness. In the half second of surprise and shadow, Nora closed the 15 feet. She went low, under the blonde's firing line, and drove her shoulder into the woman's gun arm. The pistol discharged, loud, close, the round passing so near Nora's ear that she felt the heat, but missing Ethan by inches. They went down together. The blonde was good. Excellent, even. She tried to bring the gun back around, tried to get separation, tried to execute the close-quarters combat training that had been drilled into her by people who knew their business. But Nora had been trained by people who wrote the textbook those people learned from. She trapped the blonde's gun arm, applied pressure to the wrist until bones ground together and the weapon dropped. Then she drove her elbow into the nerve cluster at the base of the blonde's jaw, precise, controlled, exactly the amount of force needed to short-circuit consciousness without causing permanent damage. The blonde went limp. 5 down. 0 to go. Nora stood up. Her hands were shaking now. Delayed reaction. Adrenaline crash. 3 years of carefully maintained invisibility shattered in less than 90 seconds of violence. The restaurant looked like a war zone. Shattered glass. Overturned tables. Blood on expensive carpet. 4 professional killers unconscious or incapacitated. 1 security chief bleeding from his thigh but alive. And Ethan Cross, billionaire tech mogul, standing in the wreckage of his Tuesday dinner with an expression like he'd just watched reality rewrite itself. The sirens were closer now, maybe 30 seconds out. Nora looked at Ethan. He looked back. Neither of them spoke. Then Garrett groaned from the floor. So, someone want to tell me what the hell just happened? Nora could have answered. She didn't. Instead, she picked up her water pitcher from where it had fallen, set it back on the server station, and started walking toward the kitchen exit. "Wait," Ethan called after her. "Stop. Who are you?" She kept walking. "I said wait." She didn't. Because the police were coming. And police meant questions. Questions meant background checks. Background checks meant the very careful fiction of Nora Vale's existence would unravel. And that would mean people who were much more dangerous than 5 corporate mercenaries would come looking for the woman she used to be. The woman she'd tried to bury. The woman who'd just made the very stupid decision to save a stranger's life. She was almost to this kitchen when one of the downed attackers, the young one, the one she'd dropped first, grabbed her ankle. His face was twisted with pain and something else. Recognition. "Cypher," he wheezed. "You're Cypher." Nora's blood went cold. That name. That designation. It belonged to someone who didn't exist anymore. Someone who disappeared 3 years ago after an operation in Prague went catastrophically wrong and left half her team dead and the other half hunting her for answers she'd never gotten. She'd buried Cypher so deep that even she almost believed the woman was dead, but apparently not deep enough. The young man was smiling now, despite the pain. "They said you were dead. They said Prague killed you." "It did," Nora said quietly. Then she applied pressure to the nerve cluster in his neck, and he went limp. She made it to the kitchen, out the service entrance, into the alley where garbage bins overflowed and rats scattered at her approach. Behind her, the police were arriving. Lights, sirens, shouted orders, the chaos of law enforcement trying to understand what had turned an upscale restaurant into a crime scene. Nora walked, not running. Running drew attention. She moved like she belonged, like she was just another restaurant worker finishing a shift, heading home to Queens on the subway, invisible in the way that working people in expensive neighborhoods always were. She was 3 blocks away when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but old instincts died hard. "Yes?" "Miss Vale." Ethan Cross's voice, controlled now, the shock wearing off. "Or should I call you Cypher?" She stopped walking. "How did you get this number?" "I'm a billionaire. Getting phone numbers is the easiest thing I do." A pause. "We need to talk." "No, we don't." 5 people just tried to kill me in a public restaurant. You stopped them, alone. That suggests you should upgrade your security team," Nora interrupted, "and forget you ever saw me." "I can't do that." "You can. You will. Because whatever you think I am, whatever you think I can do for you, you're wrong. I'm nobody. I serve drinks, that's all. Nobody who serves drinks takes down 5 trained killers with wine bottles and dinner plates." His voice was harder now. "I don't know what you're running from, but I have resources, protection, money, whatever you need. I don't need anything from you. My daughter needs her father alive." That stopped her. Again. "You saved my life tonight," Ethan continued. "I don't know why. I don't know who you are or what you're hiding from. But someone sent a team of professionals to kill me. That means they'll send another team, and another, until they succeed. I need to know why. I need to know who. And I need someone I can trust to help me figure it out before Sophie loses her father. Hire better security. Security won't help if I don't know who I'm protecting myself against. You recognized that team before they moved. You saw the pattern. That means you've been part of this world." Another pause. "Help me. Please." Nora closed her eyes. She should hang up, disappear, change cities, change names, add another layer of burial between herself and Cypher. But a 5-year-old girl was waiting for her father to come home and read her a story. And Nora had once been someone who protected people. Before everything went wrong, before Prague, before the betrayal that turned her entire team into corpses or hunters. One conversation, she heard herself say. Tomorrow, somewhere public, then I'm gone. Deal, I'll choose the location. I'll text you. She hung up before he could argue. Then she pulled the battery from her phone, dropped it in a storm drain, and kept walking. Somewhere behind her, Manhattan glittered with money and power and people who thought wealth could insulate them from violence. They were wrong. And Nora Vale, or whoever she was going to have to become next, had just made the decision that would prove exactly how wrong they were. The coffee shop Nora chose was in Astoria, the kind of place where nobody looked up from their laptops, and the barista never remembered your face. She'd been sitting in the back corner for 20 minutes, watching the door, when Ethan Cross walked in looking like he'd never been to Queens in his life. He was trying. She'd give him that. No suit today, just jeans and a sweater that probably cost more than her monthly rent. But everything about him screamed money. The watch, the shoes, the way he held himself like someone who'd never had to worry about making rent. He spotted her, started walking over. She'd chosen a table with her back to the wall and a clear sight line to both exits. Old habits. "You're late," she said when he sat down. "Traffic." He set his phone on the table, screen down. "You picked rush hour in Queens. What did you expect?" "I expected you to come alone." "I did." The black Escalade parked across the street with 2 men inside says otherwise. Ethan's jaw tightened. "They stay in the car. You have my word." "Your word?" Nora almost smiled. 24 hours ago, you were complaining about chlorinated water. Now you're making promises to someone who could have let you die. But you didn't. He leaned forward. "Why?" "You said you had a daughter." "That's it? That's the only reason?" Nora picked up her coffee, black, no sugar. The cup was warm in her hands. "You wanted to talk, so talk. You've got 15 minutes. Ethan pulled out a tablet, tapped the screen a few times, then turned it toward her. Crime scene photos. The restaurant. Blood on carpet. Shattered glass. 4 bodies on stretchers, faces blurred but visible enough. "Police are calling it an attempted robbery," he said. 5 suspects, all unconscious when they arrived. No fatalities. They're trying to figure out how one waitress managed to take down 5 armed attackers without killing anyone. Good for them. The suspects aren't talking. They lawyered up immediately. Expensive lawyers. The kind you don't get from a public defender's office. He swiped to another photo. "But I have resources the police don't. I ran their faces through some databases. Databases that technically don't exist. Illegal databases. Useful databases." Another swipe. 5 dossiers, partially redacted. 3 former military, 1 ex-Mossad, 1 whose background is so classified that even my people couldn't crack it. These weren't robbers, they were professionals. "I know." "How?" Ethan's eyes were sharp now. "How did you know what they were before they moved?" Nora set down her coffee. "Your 15 minutes is running out." "Answer the question." "No." "Someone sent a kill team after me. You recognize them. That means you've seen this before. That means you know how this world works." He paused. "That means you can help me figure out who wants me dead." "Hire a private investigator." "I did. 3 of them. They all came back with nothing." Ethan's voice dropped. "Whoever orchestrated this, they're good. They covered their tracks, used cutouts, offshore accounts, shell companies. My people can't trace it back to a source. Then maybe you should accept that you've made enemies and invest in better security." "I can't protect my daughter if I don't know who I'm protecting her from." There it was again, the daughter, Sophie, 5 years old, waiting for her father. Nora looked past Ethan, out the window to where the Escalade sat with its engine running. 2 shapes inside, probably armed, definitely nervous after last night. "What do you do?" she asked. "Specifically, what's your company?" "Cross Technologies. We develop AI systems, mostly commercial applications, supply chain optimization, predictive analytics, that kind of thing." "Mostly commercial?" Ethan hesitated. "We have some government contracts, defense sector. Nothing classified, but sensitive enough that competitors would pay a lot to know what we're working on." "Which competitors?" "All of them. Tech industry is cutthroat, but hiring a kill team?" He shook his head. That's a different level. Nora pulled the tablet toward her, scrolled through the dossiers. The ex-Mossad operative was the blonde. The one with the blank background was the young man who'd recognized her, who'd called her Cypher. That was a problem. These people weren't trying to kill you, she said after a moment. They had guns. They shot my security chief. Non-lethal shot. Through the thigh. Designed to disable, not kill. Nora tapped the blonde's photo. She had a syringe. So did at least one other. That's not assassination protocol, that's extraction. Extraction? They were trying to take you alive. Probably to interrogate you about whatever it is you're working on that's worth this much trouble. She pushed the tablet back. So what are you working on that's worth kidnapping a billionaire in the middle of Manhattan? Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I can't tell you that. Then we're done here. She started to stand. His hand shot out, not grabbing her, but close enough to stop her. Wait, please. He pulled his hand back. It's not that I don't trust you. It's that the technology is dangerous. If it fell into the wrong hands, it's AI, Nora interrupted. You said that already. What makes your AI worth kidnapping people over? It's not the AI itself, it's what it can do. Ethan rubbed his face. He looked exhausted. We've developed a system that can predict human behavior at scale. Not just consumers or markets. Everything. Elections, social movements, financial collapses. It can model entire populations and forecast their decisions with terrifying accuracy. Nora sat back down. That's not possible. It wasn't. Until 6 months ago. Ethan's voice was barely above a whisper. We had a breakthrough. Combined neural networks with some quantum computing applications. The results were, we couldn't believe it ourselves at first, but the predictions kept coming true. Small things at first. Stock movements, viral trends, then bigger things. How big? We predicted the Istanbul uprising 3 weeks before it happened. The Brazilian currency crash. The Australian election results down to the district level. He looked at her. This isn't just commercial technology. This is power. Real power. The ability to see the future before it happens. And someone wants it. Everyone wants it. We've had offers from governments, corporations, organizations I've never heard of. I turned them all down. This technology in the wrong hands could manipulate entire societies, rig elections, crash economies, start wars. He paused. So yes, it's worth kidnapping someone over. It's worth a lot more than that. Nora processed this. A predictive AI system that actually worked. Not the parlor tricks and pattern recognition that passed for AI in most applications, but genuine forecasting. The implications were staggering, and someone wanted it badly enough to send a professional extraction team. You need to destroy it, she said. What? The system, the code. Whatever makes it work. Destroy all of it. Burn the research. Fire the team. Walk away. I can't do that. Why not? Because it's too late. Ethan pulled up something on his tablet. News headlines. Corporate announcements. 3 weeks ago, before the attack, I demonstrated the system to a closed group of potential investors. Just a taste. Enough to prove it works. Now everyone knows it exists. If I destroy it, someone else will just recreate it, and they won't have my ethics. Your ethics, Nora repeated. You mean the ethics that had you showing off world-changing technology to rich people so they could make more money? His face flushed. I made a mistake. I know that now, but I can't unmake it. The only thing I can do is make sure the technology ends up in the right hands. And whose hands are those? I don't know yet. He met her eyes. But I know they're not the hands of whoever sent that team last night. The barista called out an order. Someone's laptop chimed. Outside, a bus rolled past, its brakes hissing. Nora should walk away. This wasn't her problem. This was exactly the kind of high-level corporate espionage nightmare she'd left behind when she became nobody. But the young man had recognized her, had called her Cypher, which meant someone in that operation knew who she really was, knew she was alive. And that information was now in the hands of whoever had hired them, which meant her cover was blown anyway. The man who recognized me, she said. The young one. Where is he now? Ethan checked his tablet. Bellevue Hospital, under police guard, same as the others. They're all claiming diplomatic immunity through various shell companies. They'll be gone by morning. Probably. He looked at her carefully. What did he call you? Cipher? Doesn't matter. It matters if it helps me understand who you are. I'm nobody. You know this already. Nobody doesn't have a code name. Nobody doesn't take down 5 operators like it's routine. Ethan leaned forward. I need to know who I'm dealing with. If you're going to help me, I never said I'd help you. Then why are you still sitting here? Good question. Nora didn't have a good answer, or rather, she had several answers, and none of them were ones she wanted to examine too closely. Her phone buzzed. New phone, new number, purchased this morning from a bodega in cash. The text was from a blocked number. We should talk. Old friends worried about you. M. Her blood went cold. M. There was only one person who'd used that initial. Marcus Webb, her handler from Prague. The man who'd either betrayed her team or was the only person who knew the truth about what happened that night 3 years ago. The man she'd been hiding from ever since. Problem? Ethan asked. Nora put the phone away. My 15 minutes are up. I haven't told you what I need yet. You need someone to figure out who hired that extraction team. You need protection while you decide what to do with your dangerous toy. You need someone who knows how this world works. She stood. Find someone else. There is no one else. Everyone I trust is either dead or would sell me out for the right price. His voice was desperate now. You saved my life. You didn't have to. That means something. It means I made a mistake. Please, just hear me out. One job. Help me identify who's after me. After that, you never see me again. I'll pay whatever you want. $1 million? $2 million. Name your price. I don't want your money. Then what do you want? Nora looked at him. Really looked at him. Not the billionaire, not the tech mogul, just a scared father who'd stumbled into something bigger than his genius could solve. I want you to survive long enough to read your daughter that story, she said quietly. That's all. She walked toward the door. Made it 3 steps before Ethan spoke again. They know who you are. She stopped. The man who recognized you. Before the police took him, he told me something, said I should ask you about Prague, about what happened to Cypher's team. A pause. He said people are still looking for you. People who don't forgive. Nora turned. What else did he say? That if I wanted to stay alive, I should stay as far away from you as possible. That you're cursed. Everyone around you dies. The coffee shop suddenly felt too small, too exposed. The other customers, were they really students and freelancers, or were some of them watchers? The barista. Was she just making lattes, or was she reporting to someone? 3 years of paranoia coming back online like muscle memory. He's right, Nora said. You should stay away from me. Is he? Right about the curse, I mean? Prague was a long time ago. That's not an answer. Nora walked back to the table, sat down. 12 people went into Prague, 4 came back. The rest died in an operation that was supposed to be routine intelligence gathering, except someone tipped off the targets. Someone on our team. I spent 6 months trying to figure out who. Then I stopped trying and started running instead. Why? Because the person investigating the betrayal ended up in the Thames with 2 bullets in her skull. And I decided I liked breathing more than I liked answers. Ethan absorbed this. You think whoever betrayed you in Prague is involved in this? I think coincidences are rarely coincidental. I think you having world-changing technology is one thing. Me being in the exact restaurant where you're targeted is another thing. Both those things happening at the same time? She shook her head. Someone's playing a bigger game. Then help me figure out what game. I can't protect you. I'm not asking you to. I have security for that. I need you to help me understand the threat. Who's behind it? What they really want. Because I don't think it's just the technology. Why not? Because if they just wanted the AI, they could have taken it 6 other ways. Hacked our servers. Bribed an employee. Kidnapped one of my engineers. Ethan pulled up more files on his tablet. Instead, they went for me. Publicly. Messily. That's not about theft. That's about sending a message. What message? I don't know. That's what I need you to help me figure out. Nora's phone buzzed again. Another text from M. Clock is ticking. Decisions have consequences. Prague remembers. She showed it to Ethan. You see this? This is what helping you gets me. Ghosts from the past. People who want me dead. Then help me so we can deal with them together. Whatever's happening, you're already involved. Walking away doesn't change that. He was right. She hated that he was right. One job, she said finally. I identify the threat, give you enough information to protect yourself, then I disappear. No contact after, no calling in favors. We never met. Deal. And I work alone. Your security team stays out of my way. No questions about my methods. No oversight. Agreed. And if this goes bad, if people start dying, you don't come looking for me. You don't try to protect me. You forget I exist. Ethan extended his hand. You have my word. She didn't shake it. Handshakes were promises, and promises in this world were just lies that hadn't matured yet. Where's your daughter now? She asked instead. Safe house in Connecticut. My head of security took her this morning. Ex-Secret Service. The best. No one's the best? Someone always has an angle. Nora pulled the tablet toward her again, started scrolling through the information he'd compiled. I need access to your company's security logs. Every entry and exit for the past 6 months. Every employee who's touched the AI project. Every outside contractor, consultant, janitor who's been in your building. That's thousands of people. Then we have work to do. We? You wanted my help. This is what help looks like. Tedious background checks and pattern analysis. She looked up. Unless you thought it would be more glamorous. I thought you'd break into someone's office and beat them until they talked. That's phase 2. Phase 1 is homework. Ethan actually smiled. Small, but real. You know, you're different than I expected. What did you expect? I don't know. Someone colder, more lethal. I am lethal. I'm just also practical. Nora stood. Send me everything. Use an encrypted channel. Not email. I'll send you a secure link. When do we start? We already did. You're just slow. She headed for the door again, then paused. One more thing. That safe house in Connecticut. Move your daughter, tonight. Don't tell anyone where. Not your security team. Not your assistant. No one. Why? Because if I were planning phase 2 of this operation, I'd already have surveillance on your safe house. I'd wait for you to feel secure, then I'd move when you're off guard. She met his eyes. They're not done with you. This was just the opening move. She left before he could respond. Out into the Queen's afternoon, where nobody knew her name and nobody cared. The Escalade pulled away from the curb, following at a discreet distance. Ethan's security team, probably reporting every step she took. Amateur hour. She led them on a meandering route through Astoria, into a bodega, out through the back, across a park, through a subway station without taking a train. Lost them somewhere between a Greek restaurant and a laundromat. Then she caught a train to Brooklyn, switched lines twice, and ended up in Bed-Stuy at an apartment building that had seen better decades. 3rd floor. End of the hall. Door that looked like every other door except for the police-grade lock she'd installed herself. Inside, the apartment was sparse. Mattress on the floor, laptop on a folding table, go bag in the closet with 3 sets of fake IDs, $20,000 in cash, and a pistol she'd sworn she'd never need again. She opened the laptop, set up the secure channel, and waited for Ethan to send his files. While she waited, she pulled up everything she could find on Marcus Webb. Not much. The man had always been good at staying invisible, but there were traces if you knew where to look. A consulting firm in Vienna, an address in London that showed up in property records, a bank account in Singapore that moved just enough money to suggest someone was still alive and working. Her phone buzzed, not a text this time, a call. Same block number. She answered. Hello, Marcus. Cypher. His voice was exactly as she remembered, cultured, calm, completely devoid of anything resembling human warmth. It's been a long time. Not long enough. I see you've resurfaced, making quite the scene at Le Corbusier. The whole community is talking about it. The whole community can mind its own business. Afraid not. When someone with your history starts operating again, people get nervous. People start asking questions. Are you working? Are you freelance now? Are you available for contracts? I'm not available for anything. That's what I told them. I said Cypher's retired, living a quiet life, no threat to anyone. A pause. But then you went and saved Ethan Cross, and now people are wondering if maybe I was wrong. Nora's hand tightened on the phone. What do you want, Marcus? To help you, like old times. We never had old times. We had Prague. That's it. Prague was unfortunate. Prague was a massacre. Prague was necessary. His voice didn't change. Still calm, still empty. The operation was compromised from the beginning. I did what I had to do to salvage what could be salvaged. You let 8 people die. I saved 4, including you. You're welcome. Nora closed her eyes. This was the conversation she'd been avoiding for 3 years. The one where Marcus explained his betrayal as pragmatism, where he justified murder as tactical necessity. Stay away from me, she said. Stay away from Ethan Cross. Whatever game you're playing, I'm not part of it. You became part of it the moment you interfered last night. The people who hired that extraction team, they're not happy. They're looking for answers, looking for you. Then they can look. I've gotten good at hiding. Have you? Because from where I'm sitting, you just painted a target on your back, and on Cross's back, and on that little girl's back. Marcus let that sink in. Sophie, 5 years old, likes unicorns and bedtime stories, lives in Connecticut now, but not for long if you keep making mistakes. Nora's blood turned to ice. If you touch her, I'm not going to touch her, but I can't speak for my clients. They have resources, patience, and they really, really want what Cross has built. Who are they? You know I can't tell you that. Then this conversation is over. Wait. For the first time, something cracked in Marcus's perfect composure. I'm trying to help you. This is bigger than you know, bigger than Cross. If you keep digging, you're going to uncover things that should stay buried. Like what happened in Prague. Silence. Long enough that Nora thought he'd hung up. Then, some truths don't set you free, they just get you killed. Let this go. Walk away. I'll make sure you stay invisible. I don't make deals with ghosts. Then you're going to die with them. He hung up. Nora set down the phone. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage. Marcus knew about Sophie, which meant he was either working with whoever wanted Cross or he was running a parallel operation. Either way, he'd just confirmed what she'd suspected. This wasn't about technology theft. This was personal. Someone wanted Ethan Cross destroyed. Not just robbed. Destroyed. Her laptop chimed. Encrypted files from Ethan. Thousands of pages of security logs, employee records, financial data. She opened the first file and started reading. 6 hours later, her eyes were burning and her coffee had gone cold. But she'd found the first thread. An employee. Junior software engineer. Hired 8 months ago. Impeccable credentials. MIT. Worked at Google. Perfect references. Too perfect. She cross-referenced his background. Found the same face attached to a different name on a CCTV photo from a bank robbery in Munich 2 years ago, and another name on a passport seized in a smuggling operation in Singapore. The engineer was a plant. Someone's inside man. She kept digging. Found 2 more. Both hired within the past year. Both with backgrounds that looked flawless until you started pulling threads. Cross Technologies wasn't just being targeted from outside. It had been infiltrated. Probably months before the extraction attempt. Nora pulled up the employee records for all 3 plants. They'd all been hired through the same recruiting firm. A boutique headhunter based in Manhattan that specialized in tech talent. She ran the recruiting firm's ownership through every database she could access. Shell companies, offshore accounts, legal mazes designed to obscure the real owners. But buried 6 layers deep, she found a name that made everything click into place. Meridian Group. A private equity firm with investments in everything from biotech to defense contractors. Publicly traded, seemingly legitimate. But Nora knew better. Meridian was a front. A way for intelligence agencies and criminal organizations to move money and assets without attracting attention. She'd worked for them once, before Prague, before everything went wrong. And Marcus had been her handler. She picked up her phone, called Ethan. He answered on the first ring. Did you find something? Your company's been compromised. You have at least 3 plants on your engineering team. Probably more I haven't found yet. Jesus, who are they working for? Meridian Group. Ever heard of them? No. Should I have? They're a private equity firm, except they're not really private equity. They're a front for wet work operations, corporate espionage, regime change, assassination. She paused. My old employer. Ethan was quiet for a moment. So this is about you?
I don't know. Maybe, but it doesn't matter. What matters is they've been inside your operation for months. They know everything about your AI, your security, your family. Sophie is probably safe for now. If they wanted to grab her, they'd have done it already. They're using her as leverage, keeping her alive as long as they think they can still get what they want from you. Which is what? The AI? Maybe. Or maybe they want you to build something specific with it, a custom application, something that serves their purposes. They know that. That's why they tried extraction. When that failed, they'll move to persuasion, threats, coercion. They'll find your pressure points and push until you break. She could hear Ethan breathing, heavy, scared. What do I do? You go to Sophie, right now. You don't tell anyone where you're going. You take her somewhere completely off grid. Then you destroy every copy of that AI system. Burn it all. I told you I can't. Then you're a dead man. And your daughter's an orphan. Nora's voice was hard. These people don't negotiate. They don't compromise. They take what they want and they eliminate obstacles. You're an obstacle. Choose. More silence. She could almost hear him thinking, weighing his tech genius ego against his survival instinct. Finally, help me. I am helping you. I just told you what to do. No, I mean really help me. Not just information, protection, training, whatever it takes to keep Sophie safe. His voice cracked slightly. I'm brilliant with algorithms. I can predict human behavior at scale, but I don't know how to fight these people. You do. One job. We agreed. I'm changing the terms. Name your price. I already told you. Then I'm not asking you to do this for money. I'm asking you to do it because you know what it's like to lose everything. Because you understand what it means when the monsters come for you. He paused. And because I think you're tired of running. Nora stared at the wall of her sparse apartment, the go bag in the closet, the fake IDs, the whole infrastructure of escape she'd built over 3 years. He was right. She was tired of being nobody, tired of hiding, tired of pretending the past was something that happened to someone else. 48 hours, she said. We smoke out whoever's running this operation. We eliminate the threat. Then you forget I exist. Deal. I'm serious, Ethan. After this, I disappear. You never look for me. You never mention me. I become a ghost. I understand. Do you? Because once we start this, people are going to die. Maybe them. Maybe us. There's no clean ending. I know. And you're okay with that? I'm okay with my daughter growing up with a father. His voice steadied. I'm okay with doing whatever that takes. Nora hung up, looked at her go bag, at the life she'd built from nothing and fear. Then she started packing different supplies. Not for running, for war. 24 hours after Nora made her decision, she was standing in Ethan's penthouse office, watching him argue with 3 of his planted employees who had no idea they were about to be exposed. The security protocols are too tight, the first one was saying. Mark Chen, according to his employee badge. MIT credentials. Meridian operative. We can't push the update to production without loosening the firewall restrictions. Ethan looked at Nora. She gave the smallest shake of her head. The protocols stay, Ethan said. Find another way. Mark's jaw tightened, but he nodded. The other 2, Sarah Vance and Robert Kim, exchanged a glance that lasted half a second too long. They knew something was wrong. They just didn't know what. When they left, Ethan collapsed into his chair. How do you do this? How do you just lie to people's faces? Practice. Nora was standing by the window, watching the street 40 floors below. And by remembering they're lying to you first. What now? Now we wait. They'll report back to their handler that you're getting suspicious. The handler will escalate, probably tonight. How do you know? Because that's what I would do. She turned from the window. You told your security team what I said? I moved Sophie this morning, didn't tell anyone where, not even Garrett. He rubbed his face. She cried, asked why we had to leave. I didn't know what to tell her. You told her the truth without scaring her? I told her we were going on an adventure, that sometimes adventures mean being somewhere new for a little while. His voice cracked. She asked if the bad people were coming. I don't know how she knew. She's 5. Kids know when their parents are scared. Are you scared? Nora almost laughed. Terrified. Difference is, I know what to do with it. Her phone buzzed. Text from a number she'd given to exactly one person. Garrett, Ethan's security chief, now recovered enough to work remotely.
2 vehicles flagged, both registered to shell companies, sitting outside your building for the past hour. Gee, Nora showed Ethan the text. They're here. Already? Told you. Tonight. She moved away from the window. How many exits does this building have? Main lobby, service entrance, underground parking, emergency stairs to the roof. Which one's least monitored? Service entrance. Kitchen staff use it. Security's lighter there. That's where they'll come in. Nora pulled out her own phone, pulled up the building's security camera feeds that she'd hacked that morning. How many civilians in the building right now? After hours, maybe 30. Cleaning crew, a few workaholics in accounting, security staff. We need them out. I can't just evacuate the building. People will ask questions. Then make up answers, fire drill, gas leak, surprise inspection. I don't care, but I need this building clear in the next 20 minutes. Ethan stared at her. You're going to let them come. I'm going to end this. Tonight. Here. Where I control the environment. That's insane. That's tactical. She pulled up more camera feeds. You evacuate the building. I'll handle the rest. Handle how? There could be a dozen of them. Won't be a dozen. Too conspicuous. 4, maybe 5. Standard extraction team. They'll come for you specifically. She looked at him. Which means you need to be bait. Absolutely not. You want this over or not? I want to survive. Then trust me. Nora's voice went flat. Professional. I've done this before. More times than I can count. You do exactly what I say, when I say it, and you walk out of here alive. You improvise, you panic, you think you know better, you die. Simple math. Ethan was breathing hard. His hands were shaking. I'm not a soldier. I'm an engineer. I know. That's why I'm here. He closed his eyes, opened them. What do you need me to do? Pull the fire alarm in 15 minutes. Make sure everyone gets out through the front, then come back up here and wait. For what? For them to come for you. She checked her weapon, the pistol from her go bag, loaded, safety off. And for me to make sure they don't leave with you. Where will you be? Close. You won't see me until you need to. She headed for the door. 15 minutes. Not 14. Not 16. Exactly 15. Nora, she stopped. Don't die, Ethan said. Please, I can't have that on my conscience. Wasn't planning on it. She left before he could say anything else. Took the emergency stairs down 3 floors to where the executive offices gave way to open-plan workspaces. Empty now. Just ambient lighting and the hum of servers. She positioned herself behind a support column with clear sightlines to the service elevator in the main hallway. Then she waited. Waiting was the hardest part. Always had been. Your mind started playing games, running scenarios, calculating probabilities, wondering if maybe you'd gotten it wrong, maybe they weren't coming tonight, maybe... The fire alarm cut through her thoughts. Loud, harsh, exactly on schedule. 15 minutes. Ethan had listened. She heard voices, footsteps, the cleaning crew evacuating, security guards doing sweeps, making sure everyone was out. One of them passed within 10 feet of her position and never saw her. Then silence. The building settling into emptiness. 5 minutes later, the service elevator chimed. Nora's pulse slowed. Combat breathing. In for 4. Hold for 4. Out for 4. The old rhythm. 4 of them stepped out. 3 men, 1 woman. All dressed like building maintenance, all moving with the coordinated precision of people who'd trained together. The woman was giving hand signals. Military, not corporate. These weren't Meridian's usual contractors. These were specialists. They split up. 2 headed for the stairs, 2 toward the main elevator. Smart. Covering all approaches to Ethan's office. Nora let them pass, counted to 10, then followed the pair heading for the stairs. They were good, checking corners, watching their backs. But they were expecting resistance from Ethan's security team, not from a ghost in the shadows. She took the first one at the stairwell door, silent, efficient, pressure point below the ear,
just enough force to shut down consciousness without permanent damage. He dropped. His partner turned, hand going for his weapon. Nora was faster. She grabbed his wrist, twisted until bones ground together, and watched the gun clatter down the stairs. Then she drove her elbow into his solar plexus and let him collapse next to his partner. 2 down, 2 to go. She zip-tied them both, gagged them with their own shirts, and dragged them into a supply closet. Then she took the stairs up toward Ethan's office. The other 2 were already inside. She could hear voices through the door. "Where's the girl?" A man's voice, calm, professional. "I don't know what you're talking about." Ethan, trying to sound confused, failing. "Sophie Cross, age 5. Last seen this morning leaving with your security detail. Where is she? This is insane. I'm calling the police." A sound, something hitting flesh. Ethan gasped. Nora's hand tightened on her weapon. She wanted to burst in, wanted to end this immediately. But patience was the difference between winning and dying. "Let's try again," the woman's voice now. "We know you moved her. We know you're protecting her. Tell us where, and this gets easier for everyone." "I'm not telling you anything." Another hit, harder this time. Ethan cried out. Nora moved to the door. It was closed, but not locked. She tested the handle. Quiet, slow. Through the gap, she could see them. The man standing over Ethan, who was on the floor now, bleeding from his mouth. The woman by the window, weapon drawn but pointed at the ceiling. Relaxed. They thought they were in control. They were wrong. Nora pushed the door open and fired. Not to kill. To disable. The shot took the man in the shoulder, spinning him away from Ethan. He went down hard, weapon skittering across the polished floor. The woman pivoted, bringing her gun around. Fast. Professional. Not fast enough. Nora's second shot went through the woman's gun hand. The weapon dropped. The woman stumbled back, hitting the desk, eyes wide with pain and shock. "Don't move," Nora said. Her voice was steady. Her aim was steadier. "Hands where I can see them, both of you." The man was clutching his shoulder, blood seeping through his fingers. "Cypher," he said through gritted teeth. "Heard you were dead." "Heard wrong." She moved into the room, keeping both of them in her sight line. "Ethan, you okay?" "I think so." He was pulling himself up, wincing. Definitely not okay, but alive. "Good enough." She looked at the wounded operatives. "Who sent you?" Neither answered. "I can make this hurt more," Nora said, "or we can skip that part and you tell me what I want to know." The woman laughed. Actual laughter, despite the shattered hand. "You know how this works. We don't talk. We don't deal. We just do the job." "Even when the job's over?" "Job's not over until we deliver what we came for." "Which is?" "The system, the AI. Cross gives us the code, we walk. Everyone lives." "Except he already destroyed it," Nora lied smoothly. "Right before you got here. It's gone." The woman's expression flickered, doubt, concern. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" "Check his servers, check his backups. It's all encrypted now with a key only he knows. And if he dies, the key dies with him." Nora glanced at Ethan. "Tell them." Ethan caught on. "It's true. I activated the kill switch when the alarm went off. Everything's locked. You want the AI? You're too late." The man on the floor was pale now. Blood loss. "She's lying. Has to be." "Maybe. Maybe not." Nora lowered her weapon slightly. "Either way, you failed. The target's secure. Your team's down. And in about 5 minutes, the police are going to arrive because someone, probably building security, called them when they saw people entering the building during an evacuation." She was bluffing about the police. But they didn't know that. The woman looked at her partner, some kind of silent communication, then back at Nora. "Meridian doesn't accept failure," the woman said quietly. "You know that. They'll send another team, and another, until they get what they want. Let them. I'll be waiting." "Will you?" The woman smiled despite the pain. "Because I'm betting you're tired. Tired of fighting, tired of running, tired of being someone you're not." She paused. "Marcus says hello, by the way. Says he misses the old you, the one who didn't pretend to have a conscience." Nora's finger tightened on the trigger. Not quite enough to fire, just enough to feel the resistance. "Marcus doesn't know me anymore." "Doesn't he?" "You're here, aren't you? Back in the life." back in the violence, pretending you're one of the good guys this time. The woman's smile widened. But we both know the truth. People like us don't get to be good. We just get to choose whose blood we spill. Shut up, Ethan said. He'd found his courage somewhere in the bleeding and fear. You don't know her. You don't know anything about her. Don't I? Ask her about Prague. Ask her about the 8 people who died because she... Nora fired. Not at the woman. At the floor beside her head, close enough to spray concrete dust, close enough to make her point. Next one's not a warning, Nora said. The woman shut up. Nora pulled out zip ties, secured both operatives to the radiator pipes. Then she checked the hallway. Still empty. The other 2 she'd disabled were still unconscious in the supply closet. 4 down. But the woman was right. Meridian would send more. She pulled out her phone, called Garrett. It's done, she said when he answered. 4 hostiles secured. We need police, but not yet. I need information first. What kind of information? The kind that tells me who in Meridian is running this operation. The kind that tells me how to cut the head off this snake. That's above my pay grade. Then find someone whose pay grade it isn't. She paused. And check on Sophie. Make absolutely sure she's secure. On it. She hung up. Looked at Ethan, who was pressing a cloth to his bleeding lip. You did good, she said. I got punched in the face and nearly kidnapped. But you didn't panic. Didn't give them what they wanted. That's good. She moved to the window, looked down at the street. The 2 vehicles Garrett had flagged were gone. Extraction team pulled out when their people didn't report back. Professional, cautious. Which meant they'd regroup and try again. We can't keep doing this, Ethan said, playing defense, waiting for them to attack. Eventually, they'll get lucky. I know. So what do we do? Nora turned from the window. We stop defending. We attack. Attack who? We don't even know who's running this. We know it's Meridian. We know Marcus is involved. That's enough. She pulled up a map on her phone. Meridian has a corporate office in Manhattan, 15th floor of the Chrysler Building. Mostly legitimate business, but there's a private floor above it. That's where the real operations happen. How do you know that? Because I used to work there. Ethan stared at her. You want to break into Meridian's headquarters. I want to end this. That means finding out who ordered the hit on you and why. The answers are in that building. That's suicide. That's the job. Nora checked her weapon. Full magazine. You stay here. Keep those 2 secured until the police arrive. Tell them whatever story you want. Corporate espionage, kidnapping attempt. I don't care. Just keep them talking long enough for me to get what I need. And then what? Then I disappear, like we agreed. Wait. Ethan stood up, wincing. I'm coming with you. No, you're not. It's my life they're trying to destroy. My daughter they're threatening. I'm not sitting here while you risk everything. You'll slow me down. I'll provide access, credentials. I know people in that building. You don't. He grabbed his jacket. Besides, you need someone watching your back. I work alone. Not tonight, you don't. His jaw was set, stubborn. You saved my life, twice. I'm not letting you walk into a death trap alone. Nora wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he was being stupid, that civilians in combat zones were liabilities, that he'd get himself killed and probably get her killed too. But she saw the look in his eyes, the same look she'd seen in the restaurant when he'd begged the blonde to let him live so he could go home to Sophie. Desperation, determination, love. Fine, she said, but you do exactly what I say. No improvising, no heroics. You're there to get us in and provide cover. That's it. Deal. They left the wounded operative zip-tied and gagged, took the emergency stairs down to the parking garage. Ethan's car was a Tesla, electric, quiet. Of course it is, Nora muttered. The drive to Midtown took 20 minutes. Neither of them spoke. Nora was running scenarios, entry points, security protocols, escape routes, all the tactical planning that used to come naturally before she'd tried to become nobody. Ethan kept checking his phone, probably looking at security feeds from wherever Sophie was hidden, making sure she was still safe. They parked 3 blocks from the Chrysler Building, walked the rest. Just 2 people out for a late evening in Manhattan. Nothing suspicious. The building's Art Deco lobby was mostly empty. Night security at the desk, 1 guard, bored. Ethan walked up, showed his ID. Working late,
big deadline. The guard barely glanced at him. Sign in. Elevator's on the right. That easy. Nora followed him in, keeping her face angled away from the cameras. They took the elevator to 15. Meridian's public face, legitimate private equity, conference rooms and trading floors and people who had no idea what really happened on the 16th floor. The elevator required a key card for 16. Ethan didn't have one. Nora did. She'd kept it. 3 years of trying to forget, and she'd still kept the one thing that could get her back inside. She swiped it. The elevator climbed. Where did you... Ethan started. Don't ask questions you don't want answered. The doors opened on 16. Dark. Empty. After hours, the operational floor was supposed to be vacant. Security relied on cameras and motion sensors. Nora disabled the first camera with a small EMP device from her pocket. 30 seconds of dead feed, enough to get them down the hallway to the server room. What are we looking for? Ethan whispered. Contracts, communications, anything that tells us who authorized the operation against you. The server room was locked. Biometric scanner. Nora pulled out a small device, fingerprint duplicator. She'd lifted prints from one of the operatives back at Ethan's office. The scanner beeped green. The door opened. Inside, rows of servers hummed in climate-controlled silence. Nora moved to the nearest terminal, started pulling files. Encrypted. But she'd helped design some of these systems. She knew the back doors. 10 minutes of typing, breaking through layers of security, finding the operational files. There. A contract. Dated 3 months ago. Target, Ethan Cross. Objective, secure predictive AI system. Method, extraction, interrogation if necessary. Authorized by... The name made Nora's blood run cold. Not Marcus Webb, not some anonymous Meridian executive. David Cross, Ethan's brother. No, Ethan said, reading over her shoulder. That's not possible. David's dead. He died 2 years ago. Car accident. According to this, he's very much alive. Nora pulled up more files, photos, communications, financial transfers. And he's the one who ordered the hit on you. Ethan's face had gone white. Why? Why would he? We were brothers. We built the company together. After the accident, He stopped. The accident. It wasn't an accident. Doesn't look like it. He staged his own death. Let me believe he was gone. And then he... Ethan's hands were shaking. He tried to have me kidnapped, killed. He's threatening Sophie. Not just threatening, planning. Nora pulled up another file. Floor plans, schedules. He knows where Sophie is, has a team moving on her location in... She checked the timestamp. 20 minutes. We have to warn them. We have to... An alarm cut through the building, loud, harsh. Not a fire alarm, security breach. They know we're here, Nora said. She grabbed Ethan's arm. We need to move. Now. They ran for the door. It slammed shut before they reached it. Electronic lock, controlled remotely. The lights came on. Bright, blinding, and Marcus Webb stepped out from behind a server rack, gun in hand, smiling like he'd just won a bet he'd been waiting 3 years to collect. Hello, Cypher, he said. Welcome home. Nora's weapon was already up, trained on Marcus before his smile finished forming. But he wasn't alone. 4 more figures emerged from the shadows between the server racks, all armed, all positioned with overlapping fields of fire. Put it down, Cypher, Marcus said. Still calm, still empty. You're good, but you're not that good. She didn't lower the gun. Sophie's in danger. We need to leave. Now. Sophie's perfectly safe. For the moment. Marcus gestured with his own weapon. The gun. Please. Let's be civilized about this. Ethan was frozen beside her, staring at Marcus like he was trying to solve an equation that wouldn't balance. You work for my brother. Worked. Past tense. Marcus's eyes never left Nora. David Cross and I had a professional relationship, until he decided to alter the terms without consultation. I don't appreciate altered terms. What are you talking about? Nora asked. Her mind was racing, calculating angles, probabilities. 5 against 1. Ethan was a liability, not an asset. The server racks provided cover, but also limited movement. The door was locked. No exits, except... I'm talking about Prague, Marcus said. You've been running for 3 years trying to figure out who betrayed the team, trying to understand why 8 people died for what should have been a simple intelligence operation. He tilted his head. Want to know the truth? I know the truth. You sold us out. Did I? To whom? For what purpose? He took a step closer. His people maintained their positions. Professional. Think, Cypher. Really think. Who benefited from Prague falling apart?
Nora's finger tensed on the trigger. You're stalling. I'm illuminating. There's a difference. Marcus glanced at Ethan. Your brother hired me 5 years ago. Not Meridian, me specifically. He wanted someone who could handle delicate operations. Operations that required discretion, deniability. Operations like faking his death, Ethan said. Among other things. David was brilliant. Genuinely brilliant. But he had a problem. Marcus smiled. He had a conscience. Specifically, he had a brother with a conscience. A brother who kept asking uncomfortable questions about how their AI could be weaponized, how it could be misused, how maybe they should be more careful about who they sold it to. So he killed himself to get away from me. Ethan's voice cracked. That doesn't make sense. He didn't kill himself. He evolved, became someone who could do what needed to be done without family complications. Marcus looked back at Nora. But he needed resources, capital, access to people like me. So he made a deal with certain parties who wanted proof he could deliver results. Prague, Nora said quietly. Prague. Your team was hired to extract intelligence from a research facility, except the intelligence was bait, David's bait. He wanted to prove to his new partners that he could manipulate operations, could sacrifice assets, could make hard decisions. Marcus paused. I was supposed to let your entire team die, every single one of you, but I couldn't do it. Call it sentiment, call it weakness. I saved who I could, including you. You're lying. Am I? Check the files you just pulled. Check David's communications from 3 years ago. You'll find his signature on the contract that ordered your team into that death trap. Nora wanted to shoot him, wanted to empty her weapon into his chest and watch him stop talking forever. But her training overrode the rage. She needed him alive, needed answers. Why tell me this now, she asked. Because David's gone off script. He was supposed to acquire his brother's AI, eliminate loose ends, and disappear into his new life. Instead, he's gotten ambitious, reckless. He's planning something bigger than a simple technology theft. Marcus's expression darkened. Something that involves a 5-year-old girl and a lot of innocent casualties. What is he planning? That's what I'm trying to prevent, but I can't do it alone, and I certainly can't do it while you're pointing a gun at me. Ethan spoke up, his voice shaking but determined. If you're trying to stop David, why work with him at all? Why not just expose him? Because exposing him exposes everyone, including me, including people who would rather see me dead than testify. Marcus lowered his weapon slightly. A gesture of trust. Probably false, but a gesture nonetheless. I'm offering you a deal. Help me stop David before he activates whatever he's planning. In exchange, I make sure Sophie lives, and I make sure Cypher's past stays buried. Why would I trust you? Nora asked. Because I'm the only one telling you the truth. David wants you both dead. Meridian wants the AI regardless of casualties. I'm the only person in this equation who might let you walk away alive. The room was silent except for the hum of servers and the thunder of Nora's pulse in her ears. Every instinct screamed that Marcus was playing an angle, that this was manipulation wrapped in revelation. But he was right about one thing. She'd been searching for Prague's truth for 3 years, and now it was standing in front of her, offering answers and asking for trust. What's David planning? She asked finally. A demonstration. He's going to use the AI to predict and manipulate a catastrophic event. Something public. Something that will prove to his buyers that the technology works exactly as advertised. Marcus pulled out a tablet, brought up files. He's been running scenarios for weeks. Financial crashes, infrastructure failures, terror attacks, trying to find the perfect showcase. That's insane, Ethan said. That's mass murder. That's business, David's business. Marcus swiped through more files. He settled on one scenario, a subway system disruption during rush hour. The AI predicts which trains will be most crowded, which stations will create maximum chaos.
Then his people trigger a coordinated failure. Signals, brakes, power. Everything goes wrong at once. How many casualties? Nora asked. Nora chucked. Conservative estimate? 300 dead, thousands injured. Marcus looked at Ethan. And he's doing it tomorrow. Morning commute, 7:30 a.m. Ethan looked like he might be sick. Why? Why would he do this? Because buyers want proof. They want to see the AI predict chaos and then create it. Want to know their purchasing power, not just algorithms. Marcus closed the tablet. After tomorrow, David will have more money and influence than you ever had, and you'll be dead, along with everyone who could connect him to his old life. Where is he? Nora demanded. Where's David now? Safe house in Brooklyn, converted warehouse near the river, heavily guarded. He's there with his core team finalizing the operation. And Sophie? Being held separately. Insurance. If you try to stop the demonstration, she dies. If you try to run, she dies. If you contact authorities, she dies. I understand. Nora lowered her weapon. Not much, just enough to not be actively threatening. What do you need from us? I need you to trust me for the next 12 hours. I need Ethan to access David's modified version of the AI, the one he's using for the attack, and I need you to do what you do best. Marcus smiled slightly. Eliminate threats. You want me to kill my brother? Ethan said flatly. I want you to save your daughter. What happens to David in that process is tactical necessity. Nora could see Ethan struggling with it. The engineer's mind trying to find a solution that didn't involve fratricide, trying to believe there was a scenario where everyone lived and nothing terrible had to happen. There's no clean answer, she said quietly. You know that, right? Whatever we do, someone doesn't walk away. I know. Ethan's voice was hollow. I just never thought it would be my own brother. Sometimes family is the worst enemy you can have. Nora looked at Marcus. How do we know you won't just kill us after we help you? You don't. But consider the alternative. If I wanted you dead, you'd already be dead. I have 5 weapons pointed at you right now. The only reason you're still breathing is because I need what you can provide. Which is? Access, skills, deniability. Marcus gestured to his team. They lowered their weapons. Work with me. Stop David. Save the girl. Then we all walk away and pretend this never happened. It was a terrible plan, full of holes and assumptions and places where Marcus could betray them. But it was also the only plan that gave Sophie a chance. Nora holstered her weapon. What's step 1? Step 1 is getting you both out of this building without Meridian knowing you were here. They're monitoring the building, saw you come in. If they know you found David's files, they'll move against him themselves. And when Meridian moves, they don't take prisoners. Why does Meridian care? Because David promised them the AI first, but he's planning to auction it to the highest bidder after the demonstration. That makes Meridian very unhappy, very motivated. Marcus moved toward the door, entered a code. The lock disengaged. We have a window, maybe 2 hours before they realize you downloaded those files. We need to use it. They moved through the 16th floor, Marcus leading, his team providing cover. The building was still mostly empty, but Nora could feel eyes everywhere. Cameras, sensors, the infrastructure of surveillance that Meridian had built into every corner. In the elevator, descending, Marcus said, After we leave, you go to ground. Somewhere Meridian can't track. Somewhere David doesn't know about. I'll contact you when it's time to move. How? Nora asked. The old way, dead drop. Tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. The bench outside the public library. Check under the seat. That's tradecraft from a decade ago. Which is why it'll work. David knows modern surveillance, knows digital tracking. He doesn't think in terms of physical drops anymore. Marcus looked at her. Neither do you, probably. You've been playing civilian too long. The elevator reached the lobby. The same bored guard was at his desk, not even looking up as they passed. Outside, Manhattan was alive with late-night energy. Cabs and delivery trucks and people who had nowhere else to be. Marcus walked them to a black sedan parked 2 blocks away. Get in. My driver will take you somewhere safe. I don't trust your driver, Nora said. Then walk. But if Meridian picks you up in the next 20 minutes, don't blame me. He opened the door. Your choice. Always is. Ethan looked at Nora. She could see the question in his eyes, the desperate hope that she knew what she was doing.
She didn't, but she got in the car anyway. Ethan followed. The driver pulled away from the curb without speaking. No music, no conversation, just the sound of tires on asphalt and Ethan's ragged breathing. "Where's he taking us?" Ethan whispered. "Somewhere Marcus thinks is safe, which means somewhere he can control. So we're prisoners. We're chess pieces. There's a difference." Nora was watching the streets, tracking their route, Brooklyn bound toward the water. "When we get wherever we're going, you do not relax. You do not assume we're safe. You watch the exits and you stay ready to run." "I don't know how to do this, any of this." "You're doing fine. You haven't panicked, haven't frozen. That's more than most civilians manage." "I'm terrified." "Good. Terror keeps you sharp. Comfort gets you killed." The car pulled up to a building in Red Hook, old industrial. Converted lofts that probably cost more per month than Nora used to make in a year. "Third floor," the driver said. First words he'd spoken. "Apartment 3C, doors unlocked." They got out. The driver left immediately, taillights disappearing into Brooklyn's maze. The building was quiet. Too quiet. Nora's hand was on her weapon as they climbed the stairs. Apartment 3C was unlocked, as promised. Inside it was furnished but empty, like a stage set waiting for actors. "I don't like this," Ethan said. "Neither do I." Nora checked every room, closets, bathroom, under the bed, looking for cameras, listening devices, anything that suggested they were being monitored. She found 3 cameras, disabled 2, left 1 active. If Marcus was watching, she wanted him to think she'd missed one. "What now?" Ethan asked. He was standing in the middle of the living room like a man who'd forgotten how to sit down. "Now we wait. Get some rest if you can." "Rest? While my brother's planning to kill hundreds of people? While Sophie's being held hostage?" "Yes. Because if you're exhausted tomorrow, you make mistakes. Mistakes get people killed." Nora moved to the window, looked out at the Brooklyn waterfront. "You need to be sharp, functional, ready." "How do you do this? How do you just compartmentalize everything?" "Practice. Years of it. And therapy I'll probably need decades more of if I survive this." Ethan sat down finally, put his head in his hands. "David and I built everything together. The company, the technology. We were partners, brothers." His voice broke. How did I not see what he was becoming? People hide what they need to hide, especially from people who love them. "Did you have family before Prague?" Nora didn't answer immediately. The question touched something she'd buried even deeper than Cypher. "Once," she said finally. "Long time ago. Different life." "What happened to them?" "Nothing. They're probably fine, living normal lives, wondering whatever happened to the daughter who joined the military and never came home." She turned from the window. "I chose this life. They didn't. So I let them go. Let them believe I was dead. Easier that way." "Easier for who?" "For everyone." She checked her phone. Nothing from Garrett, nothing from Marcus, just the weight of waiting. "You should try to sleep. I'll keep watch." "I can't sleep." "Then pretend. Your body needs rest even if your mind won't shut up." Ethan moved to the couch, lay down, stared at the ceiling. "Tell me we're going to save her. Tell me Sophie's going to be okay." Nora wanted to make that promise, wanted to give him the comfort of certainty. But she'd learned 3 years ago that promises in this world were just lies you told because the truth was too heavy. "I'm going to do everything I can," she said. "That's all I can tell you." He nodded, closed his eyes, didn't sleep, but went through the motions. Nora stayed at the window, watching the street, watching the shadows, waiting for something to move wrong. At 3 a.m., her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "Your friend Garrett is dead. Tried to protect the girl. Failed. She's being moved. You have until noon. D." Nora's blood went cold. She called Garrett's number, straight to voicemail. She called the number for the security detail watching Sophie. No answer. Ethan sat up, sensing something wrong. "What is it?" She showed him the text, watched his face crumble. No. He was on his feet, reaching for his phone. "I need to call. I need to..." "There's no one to call." David has her. He's moved her. And we have until noon to figure out where. Noon? That's 9 hours. We can't. How do we? Ethan was spiraling, panic taking over. Nora grabbed his shoulders, made him look at her. Listen to me. We are going to find her. We are going to stop David, but you need to focus, right now. Can you do that? I don't know. Yes, you do. You're brilliant. You're capable. And you're Sophie's only chance. She let go. So think. Where would David take her? Where would he feel safe? Ethan's breathing slowed, his engineer's mind engaging despite the terror. The warehouse. The one Marcus mentioned. David would want her close, would want to control the situation himself. You're sure? No, but it's the best guess I have.
Nora checked the time. 3:15 a.m. Dead drop wasn't until 6, but waiting meant giving David more time to prepare, more time to hurt Sophie. We're not waiting for Marcus, she said. What? He's playing his own game, using us for whatever his endgame is. We go now. We hit the warehouse. We get Sophie back. That's insane. Marcus said it's heavily guarded. We can't just... We can. And we will. Because the alternative is trusting a man who admitted he let 8 people die in Prague. She grabbed her go bag, started pulling out equipment. You want to save your daughter? We do it ourselves. Ethan stood there, watching her prepare. Then he said, Tell me what to do. First, you tell me everything you know about that warehouse. Layout, security, access points, everything. I've never been there. David bought it after he faked his death. I didn't even know he owned it until tonight. Then we do this blind. Nora pulled up a map on her phone, found the warehouse Marcus had mentioned. Satellite view showed a large industrial building right on the water. Multiple entry points, lots of cover. Also lots of places for guards to position themselves. She started sketching a plan. Rough, full of holes, but better than nothing. We hit them at 5 a.m., she said. Right before dawn. Late enough that night guards are tired. Early enough that day shift hasn't arrived. We go in quiet. Extract Sophie. Leave before anyone knows we were there. And if we can't get out quiet, then we get out loud. She checked her weapon. Loaded. But we get out. With Sophie. That's non-negotiable. Ethan nodded. His face was pale but determined. I'm ready. No, you're not. But you will be. She handed him a spare pistol from her bag. You know how to use this? I've been to a shooting range. Once. For a team-building thing. Good enough. Safety's here. Point. Pull trigger. Don't shoot me or Sophie. Everything else is fair game. He took the weapon like it was a live snake. I've never shot anyone. Hopefully you won't have to. But if you do, don't hesitate. Don't think, just fire. Hesitation gets people killed. You keep saying that, because it keeps being true. At 4:45, they left the apartment, took a cab to within 3 blocks of the warehouse, walked the rest. The Brooklyn waterfront at this hour was empty. Warehouses and loading docks, and the distant sound of water against concrete. David's building looked abandoned from the outside. Dark windows. No visible security. But Nora knew better. She could feel the surveillance, the watchers. There, she whispered, pointing to a side entrance. Service door, partially hidden by dumpsters. That's our way in. They moved quietly. Nora picked the lock in 15 seconds. The door opened into darkness. Inside the warehouse was cavernous, open floor plan, shipping containers stacked along the walls, office space built into the second floor, and guards. She counted 4 on the ground level, 2 on the catwalk above. She signaled to Ethan. Stay low, stay quiet. They moved through the shadows, using the containers for cover. Nora took out the first guard silently. Pressure point, zip ties. Done. The second guard noticed his missing partner, started to call it in. Nora was on him before he finished the first word. Hand over his mouth. Knife to the throat. Not cutting, just threatening. Where's the girl? She whispered. His eyes were wide, terrified. He pointed up. Second floor. How many guards? He held up 2 fingers. She knocked him unconscious, secured him. 2 down, 4 to go. They climbed the stairs to the second floor. Office doors lined a hallway. Most were dark. One had light bleeding under the door. Voices inside. Nora pressed her ear to the door. 2 men talking, complaining about the early shift, about babysitting duty, about the kid who wouldn't stop crying, Sophie. Nora looked at Ethan. His jaw was clenched. His hand was shaking on the pistol. She held up 3 fingers, counted down. 3, 2, 1. She kicked the door open. The 2 guards inside went for their weapons. Nora shot the first one in the shoulder, non-lethal. The second one got his gun up. Ethan fired, wild, panicked. The shot went wide, punched through the wall, but it was enough distraction. Nora closed the distance, disarmed the second guard, and put him on the floor. And there, in the corner of the office, tied to a chair with duct tape over her mouth, was Sophie Cross. Alive. Terrified. But alive. Ethan was across the room in seconds, pulling the tape off, untying the ropes. "Baby, I'm here. Daddy's here. You're okay. You're safe." Sophie was crying, clinging to him, 5 years old and traumatized, but breathing. Nora checked the hallway, still clear, but gunshots meant the other guards knew something was wrong. "We need to move," she said. "Now." They ran. Ethan carrying Sophie. Nora leading, back toward the stairs. But the catwalk guards were already descending. Weapons drawn. Nora fired, forced them to take cover. "Go! Back entrance!" They changed direction, deeper into the warehouse, looking for another exit. And then the lights came on. All of them, flooding the space with harsh industrial brightness. David Cross stood on the main floor, older than Ethan, harder, scarred on one side of his face from the accident that was supposed to have killed him. "Hello, brother," he said. "I was hoping you'd come." Nora's weapon was already tracking David, but she didn't fire. 8 guards had materialized from the shadows, surrounding them. All armed, all professional. One wrong move and Sophie would be caught in the crossfire. Ethan held his daughter tighter. Sophie's face was buried in his shoulder, her small body shaking. "Put her down," David said. Not a request, a command. "Go to hell," Ethan replied. David smiled. The scar tissue on his face pulled the expression into something grotesque. Still the idealist, still believing there's a moral high ground in a world that doesn't have one. He gestured to his guards. "You're surrounded, outgunned. The only reason you're still breathing is because I want to watch you understand what you've lost." "I haven't lost anything." "Haven't you? Your company, your technology, your security chief? Garrett, was it? He died trying to be a hero, very noble. Very stupid." David's eyes shifted to Nora. "And you. The infamous cipher. Marcus warned me you might interfere, said you had a weakness for lost causes." "Marcus is using you," Nora said. "Whatever he told you, whatever deal you made, he's planning to double-cross you the moment you're no longer useful." "Is he? Or is that what he told you?" David laughed. "You don't know who to trust, don't know whose lies are worse. That's the problem with people like you. You think everyone operates from principle, but we're all just trying to survive. Survival doesn't require mass murder, doesn't it? The world is zero-sum. Someone wins. Someone loses. I'm tired of being the person who plays fair and gets nothing." He looked at Ethan. "You were always the favorite, the one with the conscience, the one Dad trusted to do the right thing. And where did that get him? Dead. Heart attack brought on by stress because you kept questioning every decision, every contract, every compromise." "That's not what happened," Ethan said. His voice was shaking. "Dad died because he worked too hard, because we both pushed too much. No. He died because you made him weak, made him doubt himself, made him think money and power weren't enough justification for the choices we had to make." David's face hardened. "I learned from that. Learned that conscience is just another word for failure." Sophie whimpered. Ethan whispered something to her, too quiet for Nora to hear. "So what's the plan?" Nora asked, keeping her weapon steady. "You kill us both? Take the AI? Trigger your subway massacre and become rich beyond measure? The subway's already handled. My people are in position. 7:30, the system fails exactly as predicted. Hundreds die. Thousands panic. And my buyers see proof that the AI delivers." David pulled out his phone, showed them a screen, maps, train schedules, red markers indicating failure points. "It's elegant, really. No explosives, no terrorism, just a cascading failure that looks like terrible luck and poor maintenance." "You can't do this," Ethan said. "Those are innocent people, commuters, workers, kids going to school. Casualties of progress, acceptable losses." David pocketed his phone.
And when it's done, I disappear with more money than our company ever made. Live the rest of my life without looking over my shoulder, without worrying about boards and shareholders and brothers who question everything. What about Sophie? Nora asked. She's your niece. You're just going to kill her father in front of her? Sophie will be fine. She's young. She'll forget. David's expression didn't change. Children are resilient. She'll grow up thinking her father died in an accident, just like everyone thought I did. You're insane, Ethan said. I'm practical. There's a difference. David signaled his guards. Take the girl. Kill them both. Make it look like they died trying to escape. The guards moved forward. Nora calculated angles. 8 of them. She could maybe take 3 before they returned fire. But Sophie was too close, too vulnerable. She was about to make the only play she had left, throw herself at the nearest guard, create enough chaos for Ethan to run with Sophie, when the warehouse's main door exploded inward, not kicked open. Exploded. Breaching charge. Professional entry. Marcus Webb walked through the smoke, flanked by a dozen operators in tactical gear, all heavily armed, all moving with the precision of people who'd done this 1,000 times. David, Marcus said calmly, we need to talk. David's guard spun toward the new threat. For a moment, everyone was aimed at everyone else. Mexican standoff at an industrial scale. You're early, David said. Our arrangement was noon. Our arrangement was, you don't do anything stupid before I clear you with the buyers. Kidnapping your niece and planning to murder your brother counts as stupid. This is none of your concern. It became my concern when you decided to freelance. Marcus gestured. His team spread out, covering positions. The buyers are very specific. They want the AI. They want proof it works. They don't want collateral damage that draws federal attention. Mass casualties on the subway, that's the kind of thing that brings down everyone. The buyers will see results. That's what they're paying for. They're paying for discretion, control. You're offering chaos. Marcus's voice went cold. The deal's off. You're done. David laughed. Actually laughed. You think you can just walk in here and cancel me? I have the AI. I have the demonstration planned. I have buyers lined up around the world. You're a middleman, replaceable. Am I? Marcus pulled out his own phone, pressed a button. The screens mounted around the warehouse came alive. Security footage, financial records, communications. Everything that connected David to Meridian, to Prague, to a dozen illegal operations spanning 3 years. I've been documenting your activities since the beginning, Marcus said. Every transaction, every conversation, every body. It's all backed up in 7 different locations with instructions to release if I don't check in every 12 hours. You kill me. You expose yourself. You expose Meridian. You expose everyone who ever paid you $1. David's face went pale. You wouldn't. Try me. Marcus looked at Nora. Take the girl. Get her out of here. Nora didn't move. What's your angle? My angle is I'm tired of cleaning up after people who can't control themselves. David was supposed to be a simple operation, acquire technology, deliver to buyers. Everyone gets paid. Instead, he's running his own game, endangering the entire network. Marcus's expression was ice. I'm cutting my losses. By doing what? Ethan asked. He was still holding Sophie, still positioned between her and the guns. By offering you a choice. Walk away. Take your daughter. Forget everything you've learned. Or stay and try to be a hero. I promise you won't like how that ends. What about the subway? Nora demanded. What about the people who'll die in 3 hours? Already handled. My people pulled David's team off the operation an hour ago. There is no attack. There never was. It was bait. To see who would react. How they'd react. Marcus smiled slightly. Congratulations. You both failed the test. David's hand went to his jacket. Nora saw it. Recognized the movement. Don't, she said. He pulled the gun anyway, fast, desperate, aimed at Marcus. Nora fired first, not to kill, through the shoulder, the same shot she'd used on the guard upstairs. David's weapon clattered to the floor. Marcus's team didn't fire, just maintained position. Watching. David collapsed, clutching his shoulder, blood spreading across his expensive shirt. You shot me. You actually shot me. You were going to shoot him, Nora said. Simple math. Marcus walked over to David, looked down at him like he was examining something mildly interesting. You're done. The buyers don't want you. Meridian doesn't want you. The only question is what happens next. What are my options? David asked through gritted teeth. You have two. Option 1, you disappear. Really disappear this time. Take what money you have left and go somewhere that doesn't extradite. Never contact your brother. Never mention the AI. Never surface again. I'll destroy the evidence. You get to live. And option 2? I give all of this to the FBI. You spend the rest of your life in federal prison, or you try to run and my people find you first. Marcus paused. Which would you prefer? David looked at Ethan, at Sophie, at the life he'd tried to destroy. I pick option 1, he said quietly. Smart choice. Marcus signaled his medic. Patch him up. Put him on a plane. Make sure he understands that if he ever comes back, he doesn't come back alive. The medic moved in. Started working on David's shoulder. Marcus turned to Nora and Ethan. Your turn. Same options. Disappear or deal with consequences. What consequences? Ethan asked. We didn't do anything illegal. You broke into Meridian headquarters, downloaded classified files, engaged in unauthorized armed conflict on private property. I could make a case that would keep you in court for years. Marcus smiled. Or you walk away. Destroy the AI. Forget everything. Live your life. The AI, Ethan said. You're just giving up on it? I'm being practical. The technology's too dangerous, too destabilizing. Even I can see that. Marcus glanced at the screen still displaying evidence. Besides, if the AI could really predict everything, you'd think it would have predicted this moment. Seems like there are some things even genius algorithms can't account for. Human choice, Nora said quietly. Free will. The one variable that breaks every model. Exactly. Marcus looked at her. So choose. What happens next? Nora lowered her weapon. We take Sophie and leave. But first I need something from you. What? Prague, the truth. All of it. Not the version that serves your narrative. The actual truth. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Your team was sent to extract intelligence that didn't exist. The facility was a trap. I knew it was a trap, but my orders were to let the operation proceed. To see who survived, who adapted, who could be useful in the future. He paused. 8 people died because someone higher up the chain wanted to test them. You survived because you were smarter, faster, better. That's the truth. It's not satisfying. It's not just. But it's what happened. Who gave the orders? Someone who doesn't exist anymore. I made sure of that after Prague. Personal policy. I don't work for people who waste assets. Marcus met her eyes. You want revenge? You're looking at the only person left to punish. But punishing me doesn't bring them back. Doesn't change what happened. It just makes you feel better for 5 minutes. Nora wanted to shoot him, wanted to empty her weapon into his chest and watch him die for the 8 people he'd let burn in Prague. But Sophie was crying softly in Ethan's arms. And Ethan was looking at her with desperate hope that maybe they could just leave. Just walk away. Just survive. I'm done, Nora said. She holstered her weapon. With all of this. With you. With Meridian. With being someone who kills people for money and calls it patriotism. Good, because Cypher's officially dead. I'll make sure of it. New identity, clean slate. You get to be nobody again. Marcus pulled out a phone, not his usual one, a burner. Take this. In 48 hours, you'll receive instructions. New name, new background, completely untraceable. Consider it severance pay. Nora took the phone. Why? Because you're good at what you do. And the world needs people who are good at what they do, even if what they do is terrible. He looked at Ethan. You too. New identity for you and the girl. Witness protection level erasure. No one will ever find you. What about cross technologies? Ethan asked. Sell it? Liquidate it? I don't care. Just make sure that AI never sees the light of day. Bury the research. Fire the team. Make it disappear. Marcus's voice went hard. Because if I hear even a rumor that someone's trying to rebuild it, I'll come back, and I won't offer choices next time. Ethan nodded. It's already gone. I put a kill switch in the core code. One command, everything corrupts. I sent it before we came here. Smart. Maybe you're learning. Marcus gestured toward the exit. Go, before I change my mind. They walked toward the door. Nora kept her body between Sophie and the guards, just in case. But no one moved. No one fired. At the threshold, Ethan stopped, turned back to look at his brother, who was being bandaged by Marcus's medic. "I'm sorry," Ethan said, "for whatever I did that made you hate me, for not seeing what you were going through, for all of it." David didn't respond, just stared at the floor. They left, out into Brooklyn's pre-dawn darkness. The city was starting to wake up. Early commuters heading to the subway, workers beginning shifts, normal people living normal lives who had no idea how close they'd come to dying. Nora's phone buzzed. The burner Marcus had given her. Instructions, meeting location, 24 hours. She showed it to Ethan. "This is where we split up." "What?" "You and Sophie need to disappear. New names, new lives, far away from here. I go my own direction. Clean break." She could see him about to protest. "It's safer this way. If someone comes looking, they look for one person, not three." "We're a team. We were a temporary alliance. Now it's over." She looked down at Sophie, who'd finally stopped crying. The girl's eyes were red but alert, taking in everything with the strange resilience of children who'd seen too much too soon. "Take care of her. Read her those stories. Be the father she needs." "What about you?" "I'll be fine. I've been disappearing for 3 years. I'm good at it." Nora pulled out the phone Marcus had given her, looked at it for a moment, then she dropped it in a storm drain. "Actually, I think I'm done disappearing. Think I'll try existing for a change." "Where will you go?" "Somewhere quiet. Somewhere normal. Maybe get a job that doesn't involve violence." She almost smiled. "Maybe even use my real name." "What is your real name?" She told him. The name she hadn't spoken in 3 years. The name that belonged to someone who'd had family and hope and a future that didn't involve body counts. It felt strange in her mouth, like trying on clothes that didn't fit anymore, but also like coming home after a long exile. "That's a good name," Ethan said. "It was. Maybe it will be again." She started walking. "Good luck, Ethan Cross. Or whoever you become next. Wait," he caught up to her. "If you ever need anything, if you're ever in trouble, how do I find you?" "You don't. That's the point." She kept walking. "But if Sophie ever asks about the woman who helped save her, you can tell her the truth. Tell her sometimes the scariest looking people are the ones trying hardest to be good. And sometimes being good means doing terrible things to stop worse things from happening." She left before he could respond. Disappeared into the Brooklyn morning like she was dissolving into the city itself. 3 days later, Nora was sitting in a diner in Philadelphia, drinking coffee that was barely coffee, when the news broke. Ethan Cross was dead. Car accident on a remote highway in Montana. His daughter had survived, was in the custody of Child Protective Services until family could be located. Nora knew it was a lie. Knew that somewhere, Ethan and Sophie were starting over with new names and new lives. The accident was cover. Marcus keeping his word. 2 days after that, David Cross's body was found in a hotel room in Singapore. Apparent suicide. Single gunshot. No note. Nora knew that was a lie too. Marcus tying up loose ends, making sure David's disappearance was permanent. And 1 week after that, Nora received a package at the post office box she'd rented under a name she'd used exactly once. Inside was a passport, a driver's license. A complete identity for someone who'd never existed, but who now had a verifiable history going back 20 years. And a note in Marcus's handwriting. "You earned this. Don't waste it. M." She almost threw it away, almost walked out of the post office and kept being nobody. But then she thought about Garrett, who died trying to protect a little girl. About the 8 people in Prague who died because someone decided they were expendable. About Ethan trying to be good in a world that punished goodness. About herself. About who she'd been. Who she'd become. Who she might still be able to be. She kept the identity. Used it to get a job at a community center in Philadelphia. Teaching self-defense to women who'd survived violence. Helping people who needed help. It wasn't dramatic. Wasn't important in the grand scheme of wars and corporations and people like Marcus who moved pieces on boards most people couldn't see. But it was real. It was human. And it was hers. Some nights she still woke up sweating, still saw the faces of people she'd killed, still heard the sound of gunfire and screaming and the terrible silence that followed. But some mornings,
She also woke up to sunlight through cheap curtains and the sound of traffic and the knowledge that she'd made it through another day without becoming the person she'd been afraid of becoming. 6 months after the warehouse, she was teaching a class when a woman walked in late. Mid-30s. Nervous. Wearing a hat pulled low like she was trying to hide. The woman watched the entire class without participating. And when everyone else left, she approached Nora.
"I need help," the woman said quietly. "What kind of help?" The woman pulled off her hat. Beneath it, her face was bruised, healing but recent. "My ex won't leave me alone. He's dangerous, connected. I've tried the police, tried restraining orders. Nothing works." She met Nora's eyes. "Someone said you used to be someone who could handle dangerous men, that you knew how to make problems go away."
Nora should have said no. Should have explained she wasn't that person anymore, that she'd retired from violence in all its variations. But she saw the desperation in the woman's eyes, saw the fear, saw someone who'd run out of options and was asking for help from the only person who might be able to provide it. "I'll need details," Nora said. "Everything about him, where he works, where he lives, his patterns." "Does that mean you'll help?" Nora thought about it, thought about the line between justice and violence, between protection and revenge, between who she'd been and who she was trying to become. "I'll help," she said finally, "but my way. No killing, no permanent damage, just making it very clear that continuing to be a problem is a bad decision." The woman nodded, relief flooding her face. Thank you so much." After she left, Nora sat in the empty community center and wondered if she'd just made a terrible mistake. If she was falling back into old patterns, old violence, or if maybe some people were built for a specific purpose, and fighting that purpose was like fighting gravity. You could do it for a while, but eventually you came back down to where you belonged. She didn't have an answer, probably never would. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. The world was full of predators, people who hurt others because they could, because it felt good, because no one had ever made them stop. And if she could stop them, if she could use the skills she'd learned in violence to protect people who couldn't protect themselves, maybe that was enough. Maybe that was how someone like her found redemption. Not through retirement, not through forgetting, but through choosing better targets. She locked up the community center, walked home through Philadelphia's evening streets, past people living their lives. Good people, bad people, people who were just trying to survive. And for the first time in 3 years, Nora didn't feel like she was hiding. She felt like she was exactly where she needed to be, doing exactly what she was meant to do. Not as Cypher, not as a ghost, not as nobody, as herself. Broken, dangerous, trying, human. And that, she decided, was enough.